When I bought my first rental property, my main goal was to generate a few $100s a month in passive income, or what we call cash flow. And of course, that is still the goal. But what I didn't fully understand at that time were that rentals were quietly building wealth for me in 4 completely different ways. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 4 ways that rental properties generate wealth. And watch until the end of the video because I'm going to show you the one wealth builder that quietly builds the biggest chunk of your net worth. The part most beginners underestimate or don't even realize is happening. I'm Ernest and I came to the US as an immigrant, joined the Air Force, and today I've built a multi-million-dollar rental portfolio. And everything I'm about to share is exactly what I wish I understood when I bought my first property. So let's get into it. When investors talk about or analyze rentals, the first thing they look at is the property's monthly cash flow. But before we start talking about cash flow, we need to first define what it is. So what is cash flow? Cash flow is the amount of money left from rent every month after all expenses have been paid. And I'm not just talking about the monthly mortgage payment either. There are a lot of expenses that you need to account for when calculating for cash flow. So what are those expenses? You need to include utilities, maintenance, capital repairs, vacancy, and property management. And honestly, there may be more depending on the deal, but these are the most common. So here's the math to accurately compute for cash flow. It's rent less monthly payment, including principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, less utilities, maintenance, capital repairs, vacancy, and property management. And what remains every month is what we call cash flow. I will be doing a deeper dive into how to analyze a rental property in another video. But for now, let us simply define what cash flow is. So now that we are on the same page on what cash flow is, let us talk about why it's important. First of all, if your property cash flows, you are essentially generating what we call passive income. You buy enough properties and you can eventually replace your active income with passive income. And when you do, you can consider yourself financially free. Every few $100s of passive income every month for every property you buy is a step towards achieving financial freedom. And yes, that is absolutely a worthy goal. But there is another reason why cash flow is important. It keeps you in the game. As long as your property cash flows, you can own the property indefinitely. You can sleep well at night knowing that your expenses are covered every month. There are a lot of investors who have been burned because they failed to accurately compute for cash flow. And that's what leads them to getting foreclosed on or having to sell the property. So make sure to accurately compute for cash flow. Let's look at a quick example. Say you own a property that cash flows $200 a month. That is $2,400 a year or $24,000 in 10 years. And keep in mind, we're not factoring in rent growth. Rent typically goes up every year. But to keep things simple, let us assume a $200 a month cash flow over 10 years. $24,000 over 10 years from one property is not bad. But the real value of cash flow isn't the number. It's the stability it provides. It keeps you in the game during recessions, vacancies, repairs, and interest rate cycles. It prevents you from panic selling. It lets you hold the property long enough for the other wealth builders that we're going to talk about work their magic in the background. Now let's talk about another wealth builder that a lot of people forget or don't even know about when it comes to investing in real estate. Real estate investors typically get a loan when we buy a property. And every time the tenant pays rent, part of that rent is paying down the mortgage for you. This is called principal paydown, and it happens automatically every month. What's interesting about principal paydown is that the longer you are paying down the loan, the more you are paying down every year. So you are paying more in principal paydown in year 10 compared to how much you were paying in year 1, even if your monthly payment stays the same. And this is called loan amortization. On a $400,000 property with a 6.5% interest rate, your tenant is typically paying down $4,470 in year 1 and $8,012 in year 10, and a total of $60,895, or we can call it $61,000 over 10 years. Now remember, this is wealth that you didn't have to save or intentionally budget for. You didn't put $61,000 into the bank account, your tenant did it for you, simply by living in your property. And here's the part beginners miss. Even with high interest rates, the loan paydown still happens. Yes, it is slower in the early years, sure. But over 10 years, it starts to snowball. Okay, so let's talk about the wealth builder that practically nobody understands. Depreciation. Depreciation is the wealth builder that most beginners ignore, but it's really powerful. So what is depreciation? Depreciation is basically the IRS acknowledging that your property wears out over time. Roofs age, carpets get ruined, and appliances die heroic but tragic deaths. Even the walls get tired. So the IRS says, okay, since this building is slowly breaking down, we'll let you write off a portion of its value every year as an expense, even if you didn't actually spend that money this year. It's a paper loss and not a real bill, but it still reduces your taxable income. For residential real estate, they assume your property wears out over 27 and a half years, so you get to spread that deduction out over that period. The important part, this is one of the only times in life where losing value actually helps you. Because while your property is realistically going up in value, the IRS lets you pretend like it's going down in value for tax purposes. And that tax benefit alone can make a break-even property become a profitable one on paper. Let's say you buy the same property for $400,000 and your property structure value is $300,000. $300,000 divided by 27.5 equals $10,900 per year in paper losses. And this is huge because while in reality your property cash flows, you can legally show a loss on paper using depreciation, which means you pay a little or no taxes on that cash flow. Over 10 years, depreciation alone might save you around $25,000 in taxes. And that is just basic depreciation. We're not even talking about cost aggregation or bonus depreciation. But to keep it simple for the purpose of this conversation, we're only talking about basic depreciation. Okay, so but everything we've talked about so far, like cash flow, loan paydown, and tax benefits are really just the warm-up. Because now we get to the one thing that actually builds more wealth over 10 years than anything else. And this is the one I told you to wait for. And it's something called appreciation. Appreciation is just a fancy word for your property becoming worth more over time. It is the opposite of your car or most things that you buy for that matter. When you drive a car off the lot, it loses some of its value instantly. While real estate usually does the exact opposite. It goes up in value the longer you hold it. So, you know how your parents bought their house for much less than it's worth now? They might have bought their house before for $50,000, but it is now worth $500,000. That is called appreciation. So why does it happen? Because population and demand increases, neighborhoods grow, inflation pushes prices up, and good properties become harder to find. The market does all the heavy lifting for you. When I bought my apartment building in 2019, I paid $240,000 for it. I then got it appraised in 2024, and the appraisal came back at $428,000. So if you do the math, that is a $188,000 or 78% increase in value in 5 years. So if you bought a home today for $400,000 and the market grows by even a small amount, on average of 4% a year, your property could be worth around $592,000 in 10 years. That is about $192,000 of wealth just by owning the property. Okay, so people love to debate appreciation. They sometimes say, isn't appreciation risky? Or shouldn't you only buy for cash flow? And yes, definitely, I agree. Don't buy a property just for appreciation. Make sure that every property you buy either cash flows or you have a plan on making it cash flow. But you simply can't ignore appreciation because it's the one that moves the needle the most. Alright, so now let's stack all four. Let's add a 10 years for an average rental. Cash flow, $24,000. Loan paydown, $61,000. Depreciation, $25,000. Appreciation, $192,000. That is a whopping $302,000 in wealth from one property over 1 decade. Now imagine 2 properties, then 3, then 4. And that's exactly how normal everyday people that build millions of dollars in net worth without ever making 6 figures or starting with a ton of money. Okay, so that's the $1 million wealth play. And now you understand the 4 wealth builders investing in real estate. Honestly, you're already ahead of most people by learning this stuff. And real quick, if you want help building your own simple wealth system or you want someone to guide you step by step so you don't waste years figuring this out alone, I do offer one-on-one coaching. I'll put the link in the description below if you want to see what that looks like. And so if this was helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. Every week I share practical advice that help you build wealth and achieve financial freedom. So click on the next video and keep going. I'll see you there.